Hello, hello, cozy group here. Thanks to two of you joining, Mo joining twice here. Special effort. That's awesome. We are currently on the Open Design Guide Reading Club session number 9, where we review chapter 8. I'm going to share the notes document with you again for taking notes. I will try to do better than last time in actually taking notes. So if you read, that's better. It allows me to take notes, which might be helpful. Or if I read, maybe one of you can take that duty. Hi, PaperPsych. Thanks for joining. Then I created proposals, PRs for chapter 5 and 6 to update those based on our previous notes. Chapter 5 and 6, the design process and tools and resources. So if you want to hop in, review those changes, that'd be appreciative. And
Is there any
then, sorry,
background noise coming from my end?
slightly, just very
Okay.
slightly, but it's. Yeah. The changes to those two other pages, they're quite a bit. What I did was, and I described this in the PRs too, I took our feedback and told Claude, hey, revise this page and use this feedback. I give him exactly the notes. And it worked out pretty well, right? There was still stuff that I needed to adjust. So I took that revised version, I compared the two, I tried to merge everything, and then went back to our feedback, reviewed everything, and then kind of tried to piece it all together. But the reason why I'm saying that is that those pull requests actually, it's not just like tweaking a few words here and there. A lot of stuff changes. So if you review them, maybe pull up the current page, pull up the new one, read through the one, read through the other, and then kind of do from there. And then the one that's about design tools, I posted in some forums to learn from people what they actually use, because we can like just put all the open source tools we want in there, but if it doesn't reflect what people actually use, then the page is kind of pointless. So that's that. And then now we go into chapter 8, improving user experience. Did you already read it? Huh?
Nope, not on my end.
I'm gonna share the link to that page here as well. Here it is in the chat. Okay, I'm curious what you think. Yeah. So should we just hop in? Should I get started, or would you like to?
I can if you want to take notes.
Awesome, thank you.
So, chapter 8, improving user experience. Why user experience matters in open source. User experience, or UX for short, is all about making software easy and enjoyable to use. In open source projects, good UX is super important. It can make the difference between a project that lots of people love and use and one that gets ignored. Many open source projects starts with Many open source projects start with developers scratching their own itch. They create something that solves a problem for them. But for the project to grow, it needs to work well for all kinds of users, not just tech savvy ones. That's where UX design comes in. Do you wanna keep going, or
Yeah, how does that sound? Do you have any reactions to that one?
I mean, uh, quite generic, like, again, and I kind of uh, it's good that it makes the difference that okay, the project that gets a lot of love and the one that gets ignored is dependent upon UX. But is that super true for us? Like, a lot of the Bitcoin products don't have good UX, but they still keep on working just fine with the community. So it takes like a second step to get them to work on UX, right?
Yeah.
So not sure about how I feel about that.
Okay, hold on. No, I'm not taking notes. Let me take notes here.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I agree. Um,
How do you guys feel about this?
Yeah, so it's definitely true. There's like lots of command line tools and whatnot. They don't even have a user. I mean, they don't have a user interface, right? But there might be a nice community around it, and people might just love it because of the people, and like there are all kinds of different projects, right? So I think um, this is like a page written for UX designers who think UX is like the best thing in the world, like me, right? But I think you kind of have to, it's almost like there needs to be another page for people who do illustration, and another page for people who do maybe research, and another page for people who do other things, right? Um, but yeah, it's it is a pretty strict focus. But we have to, I guess after we're done with this page reading, we have to figure out if we want to keep it, if we can focus it further, or if we already covered it well in other pages.
Yeah.
I would just keep reading and see kind of
I
where it
mean,
takes us.
slightly, I feel it kind of lacks the headline says why user experience matters in open source, but now I feel like the open source element was not touched as
Mhm.
importantly. Like it just gives a general overview of why UX is important, not why in open
Okay, good
source.
point.
Hitomi,
Uh,
yes.
I yeah, I agree with paper psych.
Yeah.
So why user experience matters in open source? So it looks not linked with the certain answer. So like second paragraph, many open source project stats blah 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 is more concrete answers. So I should these sentences switch. So why users experience matters in open source and many open source projects. And at the end of the sentence, and start user experience or UX for short is all about making blah blah blah. Just my
Mhm.
suggestion, but yeah, I feel like that. So yeah, in open source um isn't strong. It looks don't strong for me.
Yeah. Okay. So clearly we're all not happy with this first introduction here. Okay, we'll have to think about that one. But how about we keep reading and then we kind of keep reacting to things? Who would like to take the next one?
Mo, would you like to? Okay, Hitomi, yeah.
Okay, I will continue. Understanding your users. The first step is improving UX is understanding who your users are and what they need. In open source, you might have a mix of users, beginners who are new to the software, regular users who use it often, power users who push the software to its limits, contributors who help develop the software. Each group has different needs and expectations. Your job is to make the software work well for all of them.
What do you think of that? Are you impressed now, or are you still disappointed?
Yeah, I think it's very important. I think it's more easy to forget. There are many various users, I think. So it's like notation. It's a good notation, I think.
Pepperside, go ahead, and then I'll go after you.
No, 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 go ahead, you go ahead.
I would rephrase the last sentence. Each group has different needs and expectations. Your job is to make the software work well for one group and thereafter expand the user experience to the other groups.
Yeah, and my point was, it would, I mean, understanding your users is like a very important and crucial step in like starting UX research. And I think it would help if we have a comprehensive guide linked, like one more resource where it comprehensively tells everything about what you need to understand about users, because this is again like uh, too simple. It's not this simple, I feel. And just one, I mean, leaving the next topic, then there is creating user personas and scenario. I think these two could be uh, compiled into one. Is it
Yeah.
uh, understanding your users is like you're also trying to create personas?
Yeah. So again, you want more depth. You want more meat. It's too generic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and again, it does not dive into the open source aspect of it. This
Yeah. It does also feel like something I've already read 3 times before in other pages here,
Yeah.
which for me will be kind of a repeat thing to say on this page. Okay, cool. How about we go to the next one? Should I read this one, or Mo, would you like to?
I was muted. I'm happy to read this one. Conducting user research. User research helps you to understand your users better. Here are some ways to do it. Surveys. Create online surveys to ask users about their experience and needs. Tools like Google Forms or SurveyMonkey can help with this. Interviews. Talk one on one with users to get in depth insights. Video calls work well for this if you can't meet in person. Usage data. Look at how people are actually using your software. Things like which features are used most often or when people tend to get stuck. User testing. Watch people use your software and see where they struggle. They can do this in person or use online tools like user testing. Community discussions. Pay attention to what users are saying in forums, mailing lists, or chat channels, and they often share problems or wishes there. Remember, in open source, your community is a great resource. Many users are happy to share their thoughts to help improve the project. Okay, so AI. Oh man, okay. So, number one, I would take out completely because surveys, well, at least in the Bitcoin design space, hasn't worked, but maybe it works in other open source projects. But yeah,
Um,
it's tricky.
so I pulled up here chapter 5, and we have a section with the exact same title that pretty much says the same thing. Using communication channels, surveys, interviews with community members, user testing. It's pretty much the same thing. Uh, I'll share that link real quick so you can look it up. That's chapter 5. Um, yeah, this was kind of to be expected. We've seen that a few times, that it keeps repeating itself. So I think, yeah,
It feels like there could be a dedicated section to research,
yeah.
but it needs to be a bit more specific than scattered and duplicated. Um, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like this section cannot just repeat. It has to go more in depth. In some way, it has to go deeper. And maybe I feel like if we read somewhat quickly through this whole page, maybe we can then talk about what this depth should be.
I think that we might have this in the UX research toolkit. Let me just Bitcoin UX research, and then we have this playbook. So I'll just post the link.
Mo, you're muted.
Oh, maybe a short version of this would work. A very short version. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there are multiple ways that this can be taken into. Let me add that to the notes. Um,
Let me see if this works.
okay. How about we just keep reading? What works, Mo?
Oh, I removed my headphones now because I'm hearing just duplications of my
Okay.
voice when I'm talking. So it was just a little bit too weird. I'm sitting in a cafe, so I wanted to be polite and not, but the cafe is totally empty, so
Okay, maybe people will come in and want to listen in. That'd be great. You never
I think
know.
so. I'll invite them to come sit next to me.
Yeah.
No, it's totally empty.
Okay. How about next one? Should I read this one? I will. Hold on, there was a message. Let me see. Okay, playbook. All right, creating user personas in scenarios. After your research, it's helpful to create user personas. These are like imaginary characters that represent your typical users. For example, you might have newbie Nat, a beginner who's just starting to use the software. Power user Pam, an expert who uses advanced features. Developer Dan, someone who contributes code to the project. For each persona, write a short story about how they use your software. This helps you and others on the project think about different user needs when making decisions. So I think this is poor guidance. Uh, First of all, I think user personas are good, but creating like cartoon character stereotypes is not a good idea. And saying like this is just a new user, that's not specific enough. Like you want to really think about a very specific scenario. Like this is, I don't know, like a young guy in Italy with mustache who his friends tell him about Bitcoin or whatever, and they pull out their phone and they have little financial background, and this is kind of the situation they find them in. This might be their financial background, like something more realistic, like a real person that ideally then also really reflects the actual people. Just saying like a goofy name and it's like, oh, it's a new person. That is just not. I don't think that's helpful enough. And I would also add the scenario stuff. I mean, scenarios is not really like the short story, right? I would replace that maybe with these. I mean, I guess user stories. It's like, as a new user, I want to be able to back up my wallet. As a new user, I want to do this, and then you can come up with like 50 individual activities, and then you can, when you design something or when you evaluate a design, you can match. You can go through the software. You can just pick one of those, go through the software, and see how that works out. And then you can go through all of them. That is not like the personas put people in the general frame of mind. It allows all of us to pretend we're the same person and look at it through the same lens. And those user stories, they allow us to kind of match exactly like, is this activity something easy or to do? Are there any problems there? Can this be improved? So yeah, that would be my feedback on this section.
Fully agree and don't have anything to add.
Okay. And I'm sure the UX research kit probably also has a bunch of stuff to link out to. Any other thoughts on this one? I'll just take my own notes real quick. Yeah, anyone wants to keep reading or have any more thoughts? Or otherwise, I'll busy I mean, if you want to keep reading, I'll just take down some more notes.
I can read the next one.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay. Improving navigation and information architecture. Good navigation is key to good UX. Users should be able to find what they need easily. Here are some tips. 1. Use clear labels. Avoid jargons. Use words that make sense to your users. Organize logically. Group related items together in a way that makes sense. 3. Provide research. For larger projects, a good search function is really helpful. 4. Use breadcrumbs. Help users understand where they are in the software. 5. Consistency is key. Use the same navigation patterns throughout the software. So, I guess this is too specific this time, like too direct, that these are the, like, it's limiting kind of, like, as a newbie, if I were reading this, it's like, okay, these are the few things that I can do, and yeah, that's done. And it does not convey the importance of information architecture and navigation. I mean, I read something like just today in a book. It said that the job of a designer is that of a translator. That you have to play with the source material to change objective reality and create a what do you call, perceptional value and emotional outcome. So informations in like information architecture fits that how you do things, how you are able to get people where they want to be, that can be expanded. We can include examples, and then there is, I think so, for navigation, there should be a mention that user testing should be done to understand how it's flowing and everything.
That was a great line about perception. Could you write that down in the notes? I
Yeah,
didn't quite catch that one.
yeah, I will. In the chat or
Either way,
some.
if you put it in the chat, then I'll paste it in the notes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on this one? Oh, good. All right, then how about designing for accessibility?
Go
Go
ahead,
for it.
Toby. Yeah.
Could I? Is anyone taking it? I could take it.
I'm sorry?
No, okay. I think I'll just go ahead then. Sorry. Designing for accessibility. Accessibility means making sure everyone can use your software, including people with disabilities. Here are some basic tips. 1. Use enough color contrast. Make sure text is easy to read against its background. 2. Don't rely on color alone. Use other cues too for colorblind users. 3. Make it keyboard friendly. Everything should be usable without a mouse. 4. Add add I don't know if it's alternate or alternative text to images. This helps screen readers describe images. 5. Use clear, simple language. This helps everyone, including people with cognitive disabilities.
Yeah, what do you make of this one?
Okay. I think just like another thing we could do here, maybe if we could like add a link that redirects people, let's say newbies, to read more on accessibility, for example. Because I don't want to I don't think this basically addresses accessibility as a whole. I mean, this has some really nice points, but I think there could be like more insights for people who basically want to just learn more about accessibility.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it really is just some basic tips. That's kind of it. Yeah.
So maybe at the end of the 5, after the 5th point, maybe we could just like have an external link. Something. I think on the Bitcoin design guide we have a full conversation about accessibility. So let's say redirection there. It would be very good.
Yeah, I guess if this page is really just about like, oh, here's something you could work on, here's something you could work on, here's some basic tips, and then give resources to find more, then I think that kind of works well. If we decide that that's what this page is about.
Yeah.
Cool. Next one: gathering and acting on feedback. Or any other thoughts on accessibility? Accessibility, the thing that people in conversations say is important, but no one ever really wants to work on and tries to avoid at all costs.
We should mention that in the guide.
Yeah.
I would add something in about testing as well.
Yeah.
To test out the accessibility and then decide on which changes to make, because here they speak very generally about all the types of changes you could make and all the different aspects you could look at, but you could only really know this with doing some testing yourself.
All right. Who wants to take the next one? Or should I take it?
If you take, I'll take notes.
Okay, I saw a hand raise, but that's gone, so I'll just read it, I guess. Gathering and acting on feedback. In open source, you have a great advantage, a community of users who can give you feedback, just like here in this session. Here's how to make the most of it. Make it easy to give feedback, have a clear place for users to report issues or suggest improvements. Listen actively, pay attention to what users are saying, even if it's not what you expected to hear. Respond to feedback. Let users know you've heard them, even if you can't act on their suggestions right away. Prioritize improvements. You can't do everything at once. Focus on changes that will help the most users or solve the biggest problems. Test changes. Before making big changes, test them with some users to make sure they really are an improvement. So I guess this is feedback on the work you do. This is not general feedback for the project, because I think that would be part of understanding your users. Part of that is that you make it super easy for them to say stuff about the project. Yeah, I found, let me take a look at my personal notes. Gather and acting on feedback. So we have a section in chapter 5 called Gathering and Incorporating Feedback. And we have in chapter 7, we have one called Dealing with Feedback. So, it feels like it's repeat again. And I don't really think we necessarily need this section altogether. So I would ditch the whole section.
Yeah, I feel last time we did discuss that there should be a separate page or section altogether combined into one instead of parts of information being in 3 separate pages.
Yeah, and if this section is about saying, like, here's some stuff, some specific areas of things that you could work on, then we don't need anything about feedback. Then that's not the focus.
Yes.
Anyone wants to defend this section? Do you love it? You want to fight for it? No section lovers here. Okay. All right, then let's go to the next one then. Iterative design. The next two sections are the same thing. Do you even want to read those? You can. Please go ahead.
Interactive design process. Improving UX is an ongoing process. Here's a simple cycle you can follow. First, observe, watch how users interact with your software. Second, analyze, try to understand why users do what they do. Third, design, come up with ideas to improve the experience. Fourth, test, try out your ideas with real users. Fifth, improvement, make the changes in the actual software. Then start over again. Each time through this cycle, your software should get a little bit better. So next is documenting UX guidelines. As you improve the UX of your project, it's important to document your decisions. This helps keep things consistent, especially when new contributors join. Create a simple UX guide that includes first your user personas, second basic design principles for your project, third common patterns and how to use them, fourth accessibility guidelines. Keep this guide in an easy to find place like your project's wiki or main repository.
Yeah, what do you make of these? Oh, you're muted.
Interactive documenting. Um,
Take your time. You don't have to have feedback if you don't want to, but take your time.
Yeah, I want to take my time.
Okay. So I mean, I'll just say here in the notes I put in links. Chapter 5 has a whole section on iterative design process, and it also has a section on documenting design decisions and process, which are longer and more thorough. And there is a pull request with recommended changes to them. So I just don't feel like this needs to be on this page. Like this is just general process stuff, which we already discussed in the design process page. It's not really about improving UX.
So an idea to remove those two sections as they're repeated.
That's what I would do here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to figure out what the core of this page is. And the conclusion is just a little summary. I don't know if we need to really repeat it. Sorry, Paper Psych, you were about to say something?
Just one thing that both the iterative design process and documenting ones, do they have like documenting? Iterative design process. Does it mention alignment in the previous page? If like alignment of the project and stuff like that. That is an important point of iterative design process, that you should be aligned with what is going on, like what is the main goal. And one more thing that I just noticed is it's saying software a lot instead of design, which is bugging just me a bit. That it's saying watch users interact with your software instead of your design. I don't tell people go test my software, or I just say, so that is like a designer's lingo kind of thing. And
okay,
it breakdown the design version control. It doesn't mention alignment, right? Go ahead, Mo.
No. If you're finished.
Yeah, finished.
If I look at this page, at the sections at least that we're keeping, it talks about why user experience matters, understanding your users, conducting user research, creating. Well, we switch this from user personas to user stories, navigation, and designing for accessibility. It feels like maybe 2/3 of the page is about user research, and then one third would be about navigation, and then the other third about accessibility. So it leans the heaviest into research. So I don't know, maybe we could call it, I don't know, research and navigation, or I don't know. It's the navigation and the accessibility are almost the two outliers here in this, because gathering and acting on feedback is also research. Basically that's sort of iterative, rapid prototyping, testing. Um, yeah, I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. This could be the dedicated. Go ahead, Paper.
Yeah, I had an idea. So, chapter 8, it says improving user experience. So, we were discussing that the core of the page, it's like becoming that we are giving, the page is giving us more tips rather than depth. So, could it be like a page that actually is, if we link to a more comprehensive guide that we already have related to why UX is important, how to do UX, how to do research and everything, and bring in those points and have this page as examples, like it says improving user experience, so you have certain scenarios and you actually give them examples of, okay, this is how general UX stuff applies to open source, and this is the examples that the community has seen, and give those examples here in this page. Because one thing we did notice, like none of the like almost 95% of the page did not have any clarity or focus on open source in UX, sorry, UX in open source. So, and we have a lot of guides on user experience in the general design community, so we don't need to communicate that so like in this
I'm
much depth.
I'm leaning towards Paper Psych. I feel this page is very sort of, each section feels very watered down. I feel like this whole section could have a bit more meaning if it was focused maybe just on one topic. I mean, if we could move it to navigation even, and then go into navigation and user flows, because that's all related. Um, but it feels watered down, having accessibility, navigation, and user research all on one page. It's like three different topics on one page. At least this is my feeling.
So what specific examples would you put in there?
Paper Psych, I
I
think this is yours.
Yeah, I was thinking, for example, like the previous few places it mentioned that there are a certain kind of people that are, I mean, it says that there is this newbie hat, there is this and that. So if I was wondering if, for example, Saving Satoshi has a specific kind of target audience, let's say, okay, and we tell them that this is a project, this is the target audience, and this is how we defined our user persona or how we understood our audience, like give specific examples, like take one project and give like 5 pointers on how the user persona was found, how this was done, and give like live examples of open source projects instead of general tips, and maybe one problem that you tackled well that is unique to open source and not to the general design stuff.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. So basically, list out from just gather from different people. Here are some very common things that projects usually do to improve their user experience. One could be actually do some branding so it's memorable and feels more approachable and more unique. Maybe redesign the website so it's easier to understand what people are actually doing. Redesign the onboarding flow because it was built with just the functionality was built, but only power users can make sense of it.
Yeah.
Pick up some feedback from here or there, or do some user testing, like with this project, like you said, Saving Satoshi. Just try to get very specific into these things, or like very specific examples, so
Yeah.
someone can see, oh yeah, I get that. That really makes a difference. This, yeah, those are harder to find, but I'm sure we can we can pick those out.
We can have the most basic examples for uh, just now. Like you have a few projects and like people working on like specifically like Bitcoin design guide updates also. They also kind of think about this stuff, right? Like the pain point of, let's say, Eric might say like the pain point of not having a specific page or info dedicated for designers on Cashew and eCash
Yeah.
and stuff. That is kind of a pain point for designers too. So we can mention that for now. Later on, as the guide develops, we have much better examples.
Yeah, we probably have a lot of material. I'm just thinking of the 10.10.1 finance calls, where one of the calls was all about that they basically had a very power user tool that was for traders, and they wanted to split
Yeah.
the UI into a casual user experience and then the power user experience. And that goes back to the point about personas. So we could embed the
Yeah.
video and have a short description and say, here's an actual project that, and this is the discussion of what they did, and they have this call and whatnot. So there's probably a whole bunch of material we can look back on like this, and that would be very, very practical. Ideally, there are projects that stick around for a while. 10.10.1 doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately. But yeah, I don't know. What does everyone think? Does that focus kind of make sense?
I like that it will move towards a focus and then showing examples. So yeah, that sounds like a good direction.
Or how PaperSci redesigned the Bitshala website, and now it gets millions of clicks per day.
I mean, the cohort page has been performing well since the rewrite, which I like. So it's good.
Okay. So we're basically going to do a major rewrite of this page and try to identify specific activities and things designers can do or have done, a bit more like a list of short case studies showing diversity of design activities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like designers problem solving in open source, specifically unique examples of open source. That
Yeah.
would be helpful.
I think that 10.10.1 call is great because a private company, they wouldn't have a public call like that and even record it in the first place, right?
Yeah.
So there's probably a bunch of stuff. But yeah, we also need to make sure, well, I'd like to make sure that we get stuff from non-Bitcoin projects. Seems to be hard to get a hold of that. I don't have a ton of connections. But maybe that will come with time.
Next one is interesting, chapter 9. I might have a lot of stuff about that.
You're looking ahead already, building a personal brand.
I was just reading the like remaining chapters. So
Okay.
building a personal brand is a, what do you call? I have some experience in, so
Okay. Do you want to talk about it now, or do you want to keep it for next time?
I mean, just like I used to be, like I used to build my personal brand, and then people hired me. Can you do it? Can you do the same stuff for that you're doing for your page for us? So I got into this for like a year. So I was just reading the top, like just the top part, like why personal branding matters for designers, and it did not connect. So
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if
it would
brand
be.
is really the right term here.
I mean, it's good if you
Yeah.
actually do it. It's good. I think so. A lot of traction that is gained by projects is dependent on people having their personal brands and having some. It's basically social proof, right? The only biggest benefit of personal brand is like you have a social proof. So that needs to be conveyed pretty well. And so in the first One just generally says that personal brand gets you notified and do this, that, and material benefits. The real joy of like creating content and sharing your own knowledge, while no other project really does that for you. So that is a bigger motivation, like you putting out yourself in the world as who you are. That's why it's personal, not just a designer's brand. So yeah, it will be an interesting chat next time, next week.
Yeah, yeah. There, there's an interesting thing where you have like world class architects like Frank Gehry or so that
Yeah,
people hire him and they say, "I want this thing that you did like 10 years ago, the thing that made you famous." Well, I think it was in some interview. He said he doesn't want to do that anymore. He wants to do other things, but he can't because now everyone like his name and that architecture style is now they just want
yeah,
that, right? So you
yeah,
can
yeah,
kind of lock yourself in. And then the other potential friction point is, do you design a certain way to build your portfolio, to build your own brand, or is it really the best thing for the project? So the word brand is a little bit like it comes with all kinds of things, and that's why I don't know. I don't know the better term. Maybe it's the best one, maybe it's not. But like you said, that's a pretty deep topic there. Like
yeah. I
I
mean,
think
in
it's
the
great when a designer can be like a chameleon. They just look at the project and find the right thing for the project. They help to express that.
yeah, 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 yeah. So yeah, it might not perfectly fit well here, as in the open source design guide. Like you should build your brand to do stuff, but yeah, it is a good thing to have in general.
Mm.
If you have the time, it takes a lot of energy. I used to be like dedicated like 12 hours the time I was doing it, and then I quit altogether.
You're like an Indian design influencer on TikTok or so.
Mm, copywriting influence, no, not influencer exactly. I stopped at 6K followers or something.
Mhm. Nice. Yeah, felt it out and realized it wasn't something that for you. Huh?
No, no, I want to go back. I have not been able to go back. You just mentioned the architecture thing, right? That they're not able to do what they want. So I switched because you have to pay bills, right? And people are paying for certain things that, and yeah, I'm trying to go back, like do content stuff again, do education again.
Mhm.
That's why this project is so interesting and exciting.
Okay. Okay, very cool. Let's tackle that one next week. So, do you have any other thoughts on this user experience one? I think it would be. I mean, I'm happy to keep doing these pull requests, but I think it would be super helpful if all of you, if you have ideas of types of projects, types of activities to mention, you can just post them in Discord or somewhere else, or you can create your own pull requests. I'm happy also to pull it together. Either way, your input would be super valuable there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice to see you on the call, Toby and Umar. I don't know if you've said anything or if you would like to say hi. You've been a bit quiet, but it's okay if you want to remain quiet as well.
Hi everyone. I've just been getting everything in. It's an interesting session. I look forward to next chapter because that's something I've been struggling with, personal branding, especially in the Bitcoin space. Because I'm kind of like just starting, so I'm getting to understand how it is for like the open source community, and I still do not know how to contribute to what it is we're doing in the Bitcoin design community. So I'm just following little by little. So hopefully next chapter I get to say more.
Well, that's the right attitude. You're just diving in, feeling around, seeing what you find interesting, and that's exactly how my journey began here too.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, look forward to the next
About
time.
the Bitcoin design community, if you don't mind me asking.
Come again?
How did you find out about the Bitcoin design community?
Oh, we started like a community, crypto, the Web3 blockchain space in my locality in Kaduna, Nigeria. It's called Blockheader. So, in the process of one of our first meetups, we got introduced to Abubakar Nur Khalil. So he introduced me to the Bitcoin Design Guide. So I didn't really take it seriously at that point because, Bitcoin, you have the other tokens and all of that. But recently I got more interested and I started digging deep and I found myself here. So it has been an interesting journey. I got to watch, I watched some of the old videos that, Christoph has done, and it has been very, very insightful. So I'm like, okay, let me just contribute little by little in this space. So I comment on some stuff on the Discord. I reply to stuff I can't reply to. But yeah, I just want to take it slow and, like I said, I'm a newbie. So the Bitcoin space has been fascinating so far.
Good stuff. Happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
So should we, great to have you here. Should we answer your question about that scam comment that I posted?
Oh, yes, please do.
So I don't know if the others saw it. There was in the general channel on Discord. Let me see how can I. Someone posted or commented on one of our videos that says, "Thanks for the breakdown. Could you help me with something unrelated? I have a SafePol wallet with USDT, and I have the seed phrase." And then this person posts the seed phrase. Could you explain how to move them to Binance? And this is a scam. Does anyone want to guess how it works? So the person wants you to read like, oh, someone accidentally posted their seed phrase and there's money on there. Let me just import that wallet and take that money, right? There's a honeypot for me there, right? That's what they want you to do. And if you import that seed phrase and put it in a wallet, there is actually money. There might be like 500 USDT or something on there, like something where you're like, oh crap, I want this, right? But how do I get it out of it? So the trick here is that this is USDT. It's actual money, but it's on a network like Ethereum or so. And on these other networks, you have to pay the fees in a different token. You have to need like Ether, you need Tron, or you need something else to pay the fees. But the wallet is empty, right? So you cannot transfer the money out because none of those tokens are available to pay your fees. So if you want to get that money, you first have to deposit something into this wallet. And then as soon as you deposit something, there's like a bot, a script in the background that instantly takes the money out. So that's just how that scam works.
That's actually crazier than I thought. That is actually crazy. Wow. And there's a lot of people that fall for this. There's a lot of people that fall for this.